afternoon, and welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I am W.D. Foster Graham. I am the book review editor for Insight News, and I will be your host today for this Book Chat Thursday. As you know, the Conversation with Al McFarlane provides informative, thought-provoking, stimulating, robust, and inspiring conversation. Now, we have now at 1,200 subscribers, and we're shooting for that 2,000 mark. So if you tuned in and you like our content and you're enjoying our guests and the conversation, like, chat, and subscribe to our channel. I'd like to just take a moment today for me to do a special prayer and regarding someone very near and dear to me, my mother. On October 17th of last year, she passed away. She's up there with my dad. And, they say there are not days that go by with some point, thinking about her and for all that she was, all that she is. And I say, and for all of you who have mothers that have transitioned, my thoughts and prayers are with you as well, because they're always with you. Now, today, we have two special guests here. So, and especially since we have an event coming up, which is the Minnesota Black Authors Expo event. And our first guest is the president of the Minnesota Black Authors Expo, Dorothy Nins. She is a passionate advocate for literacy and the celebration of Black voices in literature and the arts. With a focus on developing and elevating people, programs, and partnerships, she leads quarterly community engagement initiatives designed to promote literacy and support Black authors. Through a combination of outreach, programming, and celebration, she actively works to create platforms for authors, writers, and artists, ensuring their contributions are recognized and their voices are amplified. Now, her mission is to inspire a love for reading, foster connections within the community, and highlight the richness of Black literacy and artistic talent. And I definitely had the honor of our first meeting back in 2020. And it is my great pleasure to introduce Dorothy Nins.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it definitely is my pleasure. Say we go back a bit, because through you I first heard about Minnesota Black Authors Expo. And by the way, while we're on there, Dorothy, let's do a shout out to Devonna Bentley Pittman, who's the founder. Yes, who is the founder.
Yes, and Jasmine Buddha. They were the co-founders. Yes.
Shout out to Devonna and Jasmine. So, for those who aren't familiar with the Black Authors Expo, would you give a little backstory into how it came into being?
Sure. Well, Devonna Pittman, who everyone knows as an amazing community activist and an entrepreneur and an author and poet, she had just recently written a book back in 2015 or 16, and Jasmine Buddha had written a book as well. And Jasmine suggested that they start an event like an expo to make sure that Black authors had an audience, because it's very difficult when you write a book to know where to find your audience. And so these two women said, hey, they don't have to find you. Let's bring them to you. And so that's how the expo started in 2017.
Awesome. Yeah. So, and that being said, what were some of the venues that the Black Authors Expo has had since that time, and how they have evolved?
Wow. Well, we started out in little bitty Neon on Broadway, and that's like 1,000 square feet. And we crammed like 30 authors into that space. and it was evident that what people say is not true, which is that Black people don't read. It was
Mm.
wall to wall people in that very little venue. So then the next year we got a bigger venue that was 1,000 square feet. It wasn't enough, and we packed that place out. And so we went to De La Salle High School right before the pandemic in 2019, and it was, I mean, just wall to wall people in these two not auditoriums, they were gyms. And it was wonderful. 400 people came throughout the day to listen to authors read from their books and to see them at panel discussions. We had jazz all day, and it's always really, really wonderful. And so last year was the first time since the pandemic that we were in person, because we went to television for 3 years. And so we're really excited about being back in person.
I know that's right, because I know I was there right there with you as part of it. The question is, since we touched on the pandemic, how did that impact the events?
Well, it impacted me in a great way in that Devana had handed it off, this organization off to me because she was running for commissioner. And so I really had not done this all by myself. I've been an event planner, but I had never really done the Minnesota Black Authors. It was always Devana and me just helping out as an event planner. And so um, it was devastating to me that after I took it over, the pandemic happened. And I was like, God, Lord, why would you give this to me? And it's an event that people are supposed to come to in person. And so we had to really, like so many other organizations and businesses, we just had to make that shift and pivot. And so we went to television for 3 years, and I had to teach authors how to promote their book in 30 seconds. And it was wonderful.
I can relate to that because I was one of those authors at the time. It's like take one, take two, those sort of things. So for those who want to become part of Black Authors Expo, what are the services that are provided for it be whether they're established authors or they're new authors or say or even they say are children who are authors?
Well, that's a good question. Well, first of all, we were only doing the event, the expo, once a year. Well, this year we have changed our format because we want to reach a broader audience, and we want to reach more people and really expose them to these amazing authors that are part of the Minnesota Black Authors Expo. And so this year we will be meeting 4 times instead of just once in October. We will be meeting in November on the 9th, and we'll be meeting in Apple Valley. Well, November 9th, we'll be at the Central Library in downtown Minneapolis. But what people can expect if you are a member of the Minnesota Black Authors Expo is that, one, we will support you. What I do is ask authors, how can I help you achieve your literary dreams? And for everyone, it's different. Some people just want people to buy their books. Some people want to turn it into an enterprise and really turn it into a brand. Some people just want to go to community events. So I tell you, you tell me what you want to do with your book, and I will help you to achieve those goals.
It makes a difference because as authors, especially those authors of us who are authors of color, having be able to tap into those services is crucial.
It is indeed.
Yeah. Now, I'd like to ask you too, now for vendors, what's the role that vendors have played in the events?
Well, in the past, we have had vendors to come and sell things. Unfortunately, for our November 9th event, the library downtown Minneapolis does not allow the exchange of revenue within the building. So we will not be able to have vendors on that date, unfortunately. So you will get to really be entertained by Joe Davis and his whole band and everything. And we will be bringing books, Black books to life with panel discussions. We'll have Miss Lissa Jones, but I won't get to that until you ask me those questions. But what I'm saying is we won't have any vendors on November 9th.
Most definitely. So thank you for letting me lead into the next questions to tell us about the persons who will be part of, bringing Black books to life. So let's start with Joe.
Wow. So if you don't know Joe Davis, you must be hidden under a rock because he is everywhere. He is an extraordinary artist and an author and a poet and a spoken word artist. He is also in the theater. He creates these spectacular events to display Black excellence in culture. And so he will be leading us in the charge of from the page to the stage, bringing Black books to life. That's what he'll be doing midday because we'll be at the Minneapolis Central Library from 10 to 3 on November 9th. And it is free and open to the public. We will also have Miss Lissa Jones, who is the moderator and host of Black Book Black Market Reads. And if you haven't heard her podcast, I would really encourage you to do so. She has some of the most prolific authors, Black authors from around the world. And so she will be broadcasting live on November 9th at the expo. We will also have panel discussions with our members of Minnesota Black authors, and we also will have them reading directly from their books, which is always such a treat. And then Hennepin County Library also will be sponsoring our Kids Corner. So it is an event that is for the entire family. We want educators, parents, students, everyone who just loves books and loves to read or loves to be entertained because it's a big deal this year to bring Black books to life. So you will be entertained as well.
Oh, I have no doubts about that, Dorothy. So tell us about the Kids Corner.
Oh my goodness. So Hennepin County has been so gracious over the past 5 years to sponsor the Kids Corner. So each year it's different because we have a different person running the Kids Corner. But this year, Hennepin County wanted to run it themselves. And so Miss Alexis, who is at the Central Library, will be putting together a host of things, coloring contests. She will have authors reading directly to children. Children will be reading to children. We will be having some writing exercises for kids of all ages. So please come out. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that I left out, which is we will have a teen creative writing workshop run by our own T. Aaron Cisco, who is one of the foremost Afrofuturism authors, but he's also an incredible educator. So he will be doing that again this year.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. And I remember, in addition to children's and now teens,
Yes.
um, we also have had in MBAE a writers boot camp. Would you?
Yes. So this year we will be graced by Alyssa Miller, who is working. She just got a new job with a publishing company, and she is amazing in terms of teaching people how to get from the first word of your book to it being published and marketed. So she will be one of our instructors. And then Miss Ebony Aya, she will be also an instructor, and Timmy, who has children's books. They all are just excellent at telling you how to get your book published and how to market your books. And so they will be covering all of those things. So if you have a book that you're trying to write, if you're an emerging author, or if you're an established author and just need some tips of the trade in the publishing world, you need to come out. It's $30 from 8 to 11 on November 9th at the Minneapolis Central Library.
Okay. Now you heard it. You heard it here, folks. Now, it, I always believe that there's no such thing as an inspiring writer or because once you write, you are.
Yes, absolutely. And I believe we all have the potential to write, and all of us have a book inside of us. And it's just really having the courage and taking the time to discipline yourself to do so. So that's what they'll be inspiring people to do on that date. And $30, trust me, you're going to get $1,000 worth of information at within those 3 hours with these amazing instructors and facilitators.
That is so true. Um, Now, I came into the Minnesota Black Authors Expo because I was a person was all about getting Black authors on the shelves of our public libraries. So now, how would you say Minnesota Black Authors Expo has brought the visibility that yes, we do have Black authors here in Minnesota. Minnesota isn't entirely white.
Oh, well, look, I can tell you this, we are only scratching the surface. There are so many other really wonderful literary organizations that are lifting up Black authors in Minnesota. But I can tell you from the beginning, at when we began at Neon, finding authors who were just waiting for an opportunity to be at a community event and really let the world know who they are. We are really committed to finding every Black author who is sitting at home with their book, and we are committed to finding them. And so the more people we know and the more venues that we are at, it really does make a big difference in terms of exposure for our authors, but also finding them. And so the greater our reach and broadening our reach is what we want to do this year. So we will start this year having quarterly expos instead of annual expos. So that's the first thing. The second thing is going to the highways and byways and these little bitty audiences and these big little bitty counties. We're going to be bringing Black books there. And so our second expo this year will be at Apple Valley on February 8th. We will go to Apple Valley, and they are so excited. And we like to say we go where we are appreciated and not tolerated. So if you invite us, we will come. Definitely.
Yes, indeed. Most definitely. Most definitely. Now, when for persons who want to be featured on Minnesota Black Authors Expo, what's the process?
Well, first of all, our process for being registered for this November 9th event has closed last Friday, but take heart because you can still get on the website. So we have a featured author page on our website, which is MN Black Authors with an S expo.com. And you can go on there and your book can be featured for a year. And so we would love for all authors who missed the deadline to do that, but take heart because we'll have an opportunity for you to be a part of the expo and become a member in February.
Mm, amen. So yeah, it's very important because since we had gone from one big event, yeah, those four community events make a difference. So just to give a reminder to our viewers out here, the dates for the four coming events.
Okay. The first one will be November 9th. They're all Saturdays. The time is always the same. So Saturday, November 9th, at the Minneapolis Central Library will be the first expo. Then the second will be February 8th, will be in Apple Valley at their Galaxy Library. So those of you who are listening, who are near Apple Valley, wait, we're coming to you. And then April, the St. Paul Public Library for the first time will be hosting us at their downtown central library. And I am so excited because it's a very historic place and it's huge, but it doesn't have a lot of immediate parking, but there is a great deal of parking available around it. And so I'm so excited and they're so excited to host us. And then our final one for this year will be June 21st, which will be also the celebration of Juneteenth. And it will be hosted at the 825 Arts Building, which is brand new in St. Paul on University.
Ah, awesome. So hey, viewers, mark that down your calendar, mark it down, or in your phone for these events coming up. Now, a question for you, going back to where MBAE was and where it is now, what were the biggest challenges? Number one, that's A, and B, what were the biggest successes personally? What were the things that touched your heart personally as well? So A and B.
I think the biggest challenge is to provide all the resources that are necessary for Black authors to thrive. That is my goal. And it's always a challenge because we are a very small organization. And I do this as a passion. It is not my job. I have a full time job. So I think the
Mhm.
challenge is finding enough time to provide the support and resources that our authors and our children and our community need to really be sure that we are promoting literacy, writing, and reading. And because we know writing and reading makes you a great leader. And so that is my challenge is finding enough time and resources. But if you tell me what you need, I will find it. I am very resourceful. And we have been, and so leading into what has been great is that we've been able to really find wonderful venues. I mean, De La Salle High School was a great venue for us, and starting out at Neon and seeing us to grow big enough to be in two gyms is wonderful. And then this last thing is that changing the format of the expo to offer it 4 times a year as opposed to just 1 time a year. I think it really does say something about our executive team who decided that, as a vision, we wanted to broaden our reach and also expose more people to our authors.
Indeed, indeed. So that being said, what is your vision of Minnesota Black Authors Expo as we go forward?
Well, I really envision a world where the Black literary organizations come together. And so I've been talking to a lot of people who are in Black literature and they're in the publishing world, like Wise Inc. and Strive Bookstore and In Black Inc. I've been talking with them, the Loft Literary Center, about how we can do more by combining our efforts. And so that's my vision is that we would find all of the literary organizations and we would do more collaboration.
That is so true. And speaking of foundations and stuff, there's one that is definitely near and dear to me, partly because maybe because I guess you say either the founder or the president and I grew up in the same neighborhood, and that's the Givens Foundation.
Yes,
Can
yes,
you
yes.
can you tell our viewers about that?
Well, first of all, if you don't know about the Gibbons Foundation, it is a wonderful foundation that promotes Black literacy and literature. And it was founded by the Givens family. And part of that foundation is Black Market Reads with Alyssa Jones on a podcast. But what I can tell you about them is that they're dedicated to preserving and moving forward, being progressive in the literary world to promote Black authors. So I really love Roxanne Givens, who is dedicated to carrying on the legacy of both her parents and her brother, who recently passed a couple of years ago.
Yes, that is so true. That's so true. And I think another person that's been instrumental so far as literacy, I think, and that we have partnership with is Dr. Artika Tyner from the Rondo community. Because she has done such amazing work to promote literacy with so far as the children and in the community and it's definitely been our also not only to get to know her, but as we work in partnership and collaborate with one another, that makes a difference.
It really does. And I don't think I've found a person that is more pleasant and more brilliant than Dr. Artika Tyner. And she is always helpful. Whatever you need, whatever you want, she is always very supportive of all of the organizations, not just literary organizations, but if you're trying to be a writer or if you want to promote your book, I mean, she is just, and she's constantly elevating the level of Black literature. And that's what I love about her.
Same here, most
And she's
definitely.
in St. Paul. That's what I love too. She's in St. Paul because when we think of anything happening, we think of Minneapolis. But I want you to know that we are truly a twin cities, and that there's lots of great things going on in St. Paul as well in the world of literature. And one of the reasons is Dr. Artika Tyner.
Yes, 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 yes. Uh, um, There is a quote that has stuck with me for a while. Actually, it's a proverb. So I would like to ask what your take on it is. I think I may have mentioned this to you
I know
before.
exactly what you're going to say. Yes.
Until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter.
And I really think it's super simple, and that is we have to tell our own stories. And last year, our theme was dreaming in color, telling our stories to save our lives. Even the people who feel like they can't make an impact, you have a story that you need to tell and pass on. The legacy of Black people in every aspect, whether it's literature or art or fiction or nonfiction, biographies and all of the Black inventors, all of those things, those stories, I mean, they are endless. And so we need to continue to tell them, both our personal stories and our legacy of great leaders in the Black community. And so if we don't tell our stories, then it'll be told for us and it will not be accurate and it will glorify other people other than us. So our perspective is really, really important, and our voices are really important, and they cannot be silenced, but they will be if we don't tell our stories. If we're not reading, if we're not writing, if we're not learning, if we're not growing, if we're not reading to our children and telling our story, so no one has to tell it for us.
Ah, that is so true, which is why my column is called Sharing Our Stories. So,
And
because
I
it's,
really appreciate you, WD, because some of our authors would never be highlighted and people would never know them if they didn't turn up in the insight. And so I'd like to say thank you so much for highlighting and broadcasting our authors, our Black authors in the Minnesota Black Authors Expo. And also, I would not be able to do all the work that we do if in fact we didn't have sponsors. So I just wanted to shout out our sponsors if I could for one moment. Uh,
yes,
Hennepin County Libraries, we have St. Paul Public Library, we have the Friends of St. Paul Library, we have Dakota County Library in Apple Valley, the Literacy Minnesota organization, who is a new sponsor. Thank you, Literacy Minnesota. We will be collaborating with them. We also have the Givens Foundation, that has been a supporter from the beginning in Black Ink. We love you over there. Wise Ink and Flavor Cafe is also going to be a new sponsor who is over on Dale and University. Please support that wonderful cafe.
yes, yes. We appreciate all of you, and we
Yes.
appreciate the support here. So we're coming down to a close for this portion of the conversation with Al McFarlane. But yes, let's go ahead, just repeat and say our kickoff event for Black Authors Expo, all the pertinent details.
Yes. And so let me state again, come and see these amazing authors. There are children's authors. There is a new author, Ron Henderson, who has food and faith and talking about how important what we put in our bodies and how what we believe is important to our survival. But we will be at the Minneapolis Central Library located on Nicollet, 400 Nicollet, downtown Minneapolis, on November 9th, Saturday. Please come out. It is something for everyone. When I tell you everyone is covered, children, educators, artists, poets, you name it. You want to learn, you want to grow, you want to jam, you want to have fun. Come out and see us on November 9th at the Minneapolis Central Library from 10 to 3. You will be entertained the entire time.
And not only that, on November 8th, there will be a reception for the authors, and that will take place November 8th at the B Star.
Be sweet. The Be
Yes,
Sweet.
be
Yes.
sweet. Thank
On
you.
Nicollet,
Thank
on
you.
9th and Nicollet. Thank you so
Mhm.
much. Thank you so much for having me. That please send my regards to Al McFarlane. Tell him that I missed him. But I hope to see him at the expo as well.
I will. And thank you once again for being here on the conversation on McFarlane. Hey, you heard it here. Hey, we come out, We support our Black authors, poets, and playwrights. It's up to us to share our stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
And change the date on my name. It has October 21st.
Okay.
All right. Thank
Got
you so
it.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Bye. And again, you heard it here, Minnesota Black Authors Expo. Now we're going to our guest author, who I had the honor of meeting in Atlanta at the Artists in the Afternoon event. And his name is Healing. Mind Over Matter, which is MOM. It's founded in 2007 by Corky Henderson, who, after a spiritual awakening, took on the pen name of Healing. Having worked several years in healthcare, he recognized the gaps that exist in our country's approach to health and wellness and decided to do something about it. In the United States, we focus on pacifying the symptoms of our health issues as opposed to healing the cause. Healing believed that to effect real, permanent change in one's life, that we should not only focus on healing the cause of the issue, but to cultivate and balance each aspect of who we are, mind, body, and soul. And this became the mantra and vision for MOM. Now, born and raised as Corky Henderson, he was born in Chicago, Illinois. Shout out to Chi-Town. He began writing poetry very early on in life and usually inspired by love interests, spiritual epiphanies, familiar hardships, and other stimuli. And he holds a Bachelor's of Arts in English Literature from Morehouse College and an MBA from the University of Phoenix. So in 2008, after an earnest prayer to know and love God, healing spirituality expanded tremendously, causing him to have a more universal sense of who God is and who we are in connection to God and each other. Now, this newfound consciousness catapulted healing along his journey and caused him to realize his destiny, to share his truth with the world and evoke healing. Now, he would do this by helping others to heal mentally, physically, and spiritually. And this endeavor began as a daily blog entitled Healing Affirmations. Most of these can be found here for Healing Affirmations. So it is my great pleasure to introduce you to Healing. Okay. Oh,
Good afternoon.
good afternoon, Healing. It's good to have you here on Conversation with McFarlane.
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
One of the things I just really appreciate about how healing is a multifaceted process, and you can't heal one area without healing the others.
Yes, indeed.
So tell us something about how that process manifested in your life.
So, like I said, when I prayed that prayer back in 2008 to uh, better know and love God, I need to take us a step back. So, I was raised in a Christian household, raised Baptist. And so, church and God has always been something that was a part of my life. However, um, maybe around my early 20s, I started to question my faith and question why I believe what I believe, because just the fact that I was taught to believe that wasn't enough for me. I needed to know that it's something that I truly believe of my own volition, and it's something that I truly choose to follow. So that sped into what now was my journey to consciousness, if you will. And in doing so, I believe I read in Conversations with God, book number 3 by Neil Donald Walsh, that we all have a unique nature that is unique to each and every one of us. And after reading that, I then pray and say, well, what is my nature, God? What is it that I'm sent here to do? Who am I? What am I supposed to do on this earth? And the resounding response was healing. And so I took on that pen name and then really started to understand what healing means. And so understanding that we're three-part beings, we are mind, we're body, we're spirit. um, it means to cultivate each of those areas such that there's a balance between the three. Here in the US, we tend to focus on the physical more than the mental and the spiritual. Um, and that in and of itself creates an imbalance. And so, we have to also focus on the mental health, the spiritual health. And there are millions of ways to do either of those three things or to do all three in one. It just depends on the individual. It depends on their belief system. Depends on, who the higher power is, if they even believe in a higher power. All those things come into play when we talk about healing for the individual. And so, there are a million different methodologies that could come into play here. But again, what I do, I tend to try to understand the individual and what healing means for them and help them to achieve that.
Yeah, and it's a powerful process, and definitely you have to do the work.
Yes, indeed.
It's not something you can just sit back and coast
No,
on.
it will not do it on its own.
It won't. Now, one of the things that when I was reading it, one of the phrases that stuck with me is the term "thoughts become things." So
Yes,
it's almost like what's going on in here or what's coming out of my mouth is going to show up around me. So could you elaborate on that for our viewers?
definitely. So, we go through life making choices. And every second of every day, we're making a choice. Now, we make choices in one of two ways. Either it's an unconscious choice or it's a conscious choice. And so, unconsciously, many of us are going through life. And so, with that being the case, we often take on the title of victim because life is happening to me as opposed to for me, not recognizing that we are in the driver's seat. So it's the choices that we make that then create what we experience and then thus our lives. And so to understand that uh, we're in that driver's seat, then it's about taking on the control and deciding to go through life consciously and make conscious choices. And the difference between the two is when you're choosing consciously, you're very aware of not only the choice you're making, the impact it has on you, and the impact it has on others. And then also, too, the desired outcome. And so when you think about those things and make that choice based on those things, it's much more likely that you will create the life that you choose as opposed to one where you would call yourself the victim. And so when you choose consciously, you take control of your life and control of your destiny. And then I also do a workshop called Create the Life You Choose. And I teach in this workshop how to do just that, how to take those unconscious choices and turn them into conscious choices such that one can then create that which they desire to experience.
Yes, I get it. And also, in from what you're sharing, it does also mean that means we hold ourselves accountable for those choices,
100%.
and
Yeah.
we have, and it's up to us to own the responsibility for these choices that we're making because we're creating what's going on around us.
Yeah, yeah. And see, the thing is, for many of us that go through life, choosing unconsciously, when we take on that title of victim, that just means that I choose not to take accountability for my choices because
Hmm.
it's happening to me, and which means I have no control over it. Which actually, the opposite is true.
There you go. So that being said, from what you were sharing earlier, how did your journey inspire your writing?
So I started writing, and like I said in my bio, I think it's my freshman year in high school. Um, I read the poem "Dream Deferred" by Langston Hughes, and that just that poem really resonated with me, not only because Langston Hughes is a prolific and amazing poet, but just understanding, I did some research on him back then and just understanding his journey, and it just inspired me to then share my journey, my story, via poetry. And so I started writing then, and I, like I said, I would be inspired by, some person that I was interested in at the time that I was liking on, or some situation going on in my family, or just spiritual epiphanies that I would have even sometimes while I'm in bed trying to go to sleep, and I would not be able to go to sleep until I actually got up to write. And so this is something
Yes,
that went
yes,
on for years and years, and so I just started to collect all of my poetry. And after the spiritual awakening that I had in 2008,
yes,
the poetry morphed into more like affirmations. So I started to share these affirmations with family and friends that were close to me, just to kind of get their feedback, and also to see what impact it would have sharing my story. And then I think it many of them came back to me and said that those affirmations blessed them, and a couple people, who were friends of mine, suggested that I put them together in a book. So I never thought about being an author, but maybe I'll consider it. And then one of those friends actually had put a book out, sharing his own story, and we had several talks, and he actually talked me into starting the process. And so then became Mind Over Matter: The Awakening, which is the first book that came out, which consists of a lot of the poems that I collected over the years and a lot of the affirmations that I had shared with family and friends. And then the second book, Journey to Consciousness, is actually the sophomore project, which extends from the first book. So there are additional poems, additional affirmations in this book. Uh, there are also affirmative prayers for each piece that further drive home the conscious choice of choosing the life you desire. And so now we're 2 books in, and I think the next one is probably going to be a bio.
hey, never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, what's one of the things I liked about when I was reading, because there's a combination of the poems, uh, the spiritual parts of it, you know, coming from scriptural text, as well as the whole process itself. So, for our viewers, if you want to know more about Mind Over Matter, what are the services and the products that Mind Over Matter currently offers?
Oh, that's a good question. Thank you for asking that. So we have just recently started to offer a virtual vision board. So we create a virtual vision board. We'll meet with clients and kind of get an idea of the life that they choose to live, and help them to put that into a presentation, which is what we call a virtual vision board. And so it's basically a PowerPoint brought to life, if you will. And so it helps to not only see your vision, but to feel it, to read it, to rehearse it, and to do that over and over again until that dream becomes a reality. Because there's energy when you read something, there's energy when you see something, there's additional energy when you feel it. You put those three together, all that accumulates to bring it to pass. So we offer that. We also offer life coaching sessions. And so, again, helping clients to create the life that they choose. Um, in addition to the life coaching sessions, we offer marriage services. So we have an ordained minister who does officiating and also does um, marriage counseling. Marriage counseling. So actually, and spoiler alert, that's my mother
Yeah,
who
hey.
offers those services. She actually did marry me and several of my other relatives, and so Her name is Reverend Teresa Shackelford. You can read about her and her bio on the website, www.momonline.us. And also, we offer music services. So my brother, Paul Henderson, who is the owner of Bonafide Productions, he is a producer. So he makes beats, tracks for people, and he can help you put together records, things of that nature that you can put out and promote your artistry. And so those are the new services that we now offer. In addition to the two books that I mentioned, Mind Over Matter: The Awakening is the first book, and the second book is Journey to Consciousness: Affirmations of Healing, all of which are available on the website www.momonline.us. And then, last but not least, there is a subscription to the blog that WD mentioned earlier, Healing Affirmations. And so these are affirmations that can be sent out via text, email, social media, however you prefer. And it'll usually be probably on a weekly basis.
Yes.
And then pretty soon we'll be offering this via push notifications via the app that's going to be created.
Hey, well, we definitely appreciate all different ways that our viewers can connect and get in touch. Since our previous guest, Dorothy Nins, is our Minister of Black Artists Expo, and I happen to be in the planning committee, I hereby invite you to attend one of our events.
Okay.
So more people get to know you and your work.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I'll definitely get you the details, later on today. So
okay, sounds good.
Now, when we talk about, mentally, physically, emotionally, how are the ways you feed yourself spiritually?
Oh, there's so many. Well, I meditate just about every day, sometimes twice a day. I've created my own virtual vision board, which I try to watch twice a day, the first thing in the morning and before I go to bed at night, which, really lays out the life that I choose for myself, which many of those things have come to pass already. One of which I just moved into my dream home in Glendale, Arizona, a few weeks ago. So, things are definitely coming to pass. So that's just a testament to the fact that these vision boards and virtual vision boards definitely work and will help you to achieve that what you choose. And so that's I do that. Meditate, like I said. I also attend church. I attend First Institutional Baptist Church here in Phoenix, Arizona, pastored by Dr. Warren H. Stewart. And I come from a very spiritual family, and sometimes some of us are more religious and spiritual, but definitely, God is at the head and in our family gatherings, and so that really has helped me to continue to mature spiritually, having those older people and people in past generations that have shared their religious views and spirituality with me and helped me to get to the person that I am today. One of which that I had to mention, I would be remiss if I didn't, is my father, Michael Henderson, who is an extremely spiritual guy. Every time we talk, we're talking about, how the universe impacts our lives and how we're connected to each other, he and I, as well as the world at large. And so it's these conversations that really help me to continue to build on my spirituality. I learn from him every time we talk. And he's shared with me that he's learned a lot from me as well. So, we keep each other lifted up, as you say, iron sharpens iron. It just, overarching, that kind of encompasses all of that is just my relationship with God. Like, I talk to God as I just like I'm talking to you or talk to any of my friends. We talk all the time throughout the day, daily, at night when I'm praying in the morning, or just, quick little messages. We have a very strong, communicative and responsive relationship. And, I put my 100% trust in anything that God tells me to do, which is why I moved to Arizona in the first place. Because God said, go, I went.
There you go. So tell us more about the role connections play.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Tell us more about the role connections play in our
Gotcha.
lives.
Okay. Well, the thing is that, one thing I learned, and I think I learned this reading, um, I think I've learned this in the Quran, if I'm not mistaken, but um, when the student is ready, the teacher will come.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're all connected. We're all one life. Um, and we're all children of God, all individual expressions of God, which means that what I do directly and indirectly impacts you and everyone else that we're connected to. And so to think of it like that, that really changes the game in terms of how we interact with one another. Because if I recognize that whatever I'm doing to you, I'm doing to myself, that would change a lot of things that we would do to each other,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to harming one another and hate crimes and things of that nature. You know, that would drastically change if people approached it as though they're doing it directly to themselves. And so we're all connected. And in addition to that, we all learn from one another. So every experience that we have with each person that we encounter every day of every year, there's something to learn. And that person and that experience exists in your life for a very specific reason. Now, you would have to, you know, understand what that reason is on your own. I mean, either, through conversation with God or just looking within to understand why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. But trust and believe everything that you experience is for a specific reason. Nothing happens by happenstance. It's not a coincidence. It's none of that. It's on purpose. And to understand what the purpose is to tap into that relationship you have with your higher power. For me, that's God.
There you go.
So it's these connections that help us to move through life, that teach us to be who we are, that teach us how to navigate life and how to get to what it is we call our destiny.
There you go. Now, that being said, what do you see for MOM in the next 5 to 10 years?
Actually, what I envision for mom is a one-stop shop health and wellness center
Mhm.
that is a compound in a campus that uh, facilitates mental health counseling, spiritual counseling, life coaching, physical health counseling, physical fitness, vocational services, substance abuse services, uh, housing, kind of just like a one-stop shop that where whatever you're dealing with, whatever is the ailment, whatever is the issue, you can come to this place and be made whole, mind, body, and soul.
Amen. Amen. Or as you said, namaste.
Yes.
I know.
Namaste. And
Now,
that means I salute the God in you.
yes. Yeah. Now we come to a question that I ask all of my authors
Mhm.
and insist. Now, what advice would you give to your 13-year-old self from where you are today?
Mm. What I would say is understand that everything you do and everything you say has a specific consequence and has a specific impact. And so to approach everything you do, everything you say from a place of love. And in doing so, not only are you creating the life that you choose, but you are honoring God and you are living the life that He would have for us to live. I would also say to be very clear on what it is that you choose to do, choose to experience in life, because as we stated earlier, thoughts become things. And so if you are clear about what it is you want to experience and think about those things and give thanks for those things as though they already exist, that just helps you to further create them and live that experience.
Indeed, indeed. And I appreciate you sharing that, most definitely. So now, once again, for our readers out there and our viewers out there, where can they find your works? Where would they be
Definitely.
available?
Yes, yes. So everything that I mentioned earlier is available via our website, and that is www.momonline.us. So that's M as in Mary, O as in Oscar, M as in Mary, O as in Oscar, N as in Nancy, L as in Larry, I as in India, N as in Nancy, E as in Eddie, S as in Sam, .us. So that's www.momonline.us. And the life coaching services, the marriage services, music services, the blog, and the books are all available on the site.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just want to definitely say I appreciate your being here to be a guest on the show.
Definitely.
And I appreciate all the work that you're doing. And
Yes.
I think what came out of that too is when I think about thoughts become things, I felt when I was reading your book, another phrase came to it. So it's called "What we give is what we receive,"
Yes,
and
indeed.
you just encapsulated that in terms of the advice you give to your 13-year-old self.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah.
Because yeah, I guess in some ways it reminds me of something else that I learned about a long time ago was the law of attraction.
Oh, yes. Oh,
that
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
that came into play. And so
Yeah. It's a cycle. So, uh, giving and receiving are both two sides of a never-ending cycle. And so, to not do one is to stifle the other. So if you only give and never allow yourself to receive, then you're stifling the cycle and you're blocking your blessings. And if you only receive and never give, again, you're stifling the cycle and blocking your blessings. And then too, I just want to thank you, WD, for inviting me to this interview, to this chat. It's been amazing getting to know you and having this conversation. I really appreciate it. Mom appreciates you, and as well as Insight News. And we're looking forward to working together more in the future.
oh, most definitely healing. So that being said, uh, I am WD Foster Graham. I'm your host today for this Book Chat Thursday, which I had the pleasure of having Dorothy Nins from Minnesota Black Authors Expo and Healing for Mind Over Matter. Thank you for a most enlightening and inspiring conversation. So, in the meantime, we'll see you in the next go round. Thank you.
Thank you.